Hey, welcome back to the Travel Ones podcast. Today, my guest is Dr. Chris Motley. Really excited to speak with Dr. Chris because he is a health food practitioner, kind of acupuncture, w- Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, the host of the Ancient Health podcast, which is like 380 episodes in plus. How
hmm
are you today, Chris?
I'm doing well, Pete. I mean, I am so thankful to be here. I know we got some friends that introduced us, and man, we already had a great convo, and I was just like, I could talk with you. We got a good banter, man. This was great. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for making the time in between your patients. I know I always joke with people. I go, I love talking to business travelers, but unfortunately, they're usually pretty busy.
Yeah, it does. In the day, we were talking about how here at the office, it's like I have it like looking like a studio, but basically after this is to turn the things off, have the table out, and have patients coming in, and so it's pretty much full on practice. And that's how we first started the podcast. It was set up with a little computer, right on the
Yeah, yeah.
corner, and I would treat, and I go to the computer, start shooting a podcast.
That's how it's supposed to be.
It's and I think with doing like Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, I think it's really good for me to keep my hands on people and to stay relevant. Not only for people that ask me questions, but truly internally. Like I really wanted to stay relevant to me because if I didn't think I was actually, for me personally, working on people, then
Yeah.
how can I give advice? That's how I felt.
I got to ask, how did you get started?
Oh man,
What was the
I'll
next?
give you it's a great question. Short version. I got into Chinese medicine, I would say by default. So we'll jump ahead. My mom is Korean, and so I'm half Korean with some Chinese blood. I had no really inkling of going into healthcare. My brother suffered from literally, he could not breathe through his nose when I was a kid. We shared the same room, and Pete, he would just breathe through his mouth like all the time. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna kill him. And then my dad also had a very bad back. Like he was good. He's in the military, drill sergeant, bad back. Both of those guys went to a chiropractor and a chiropractic neurologist who like did stuff with their neck, upper cervical. And so people have heard like doing some snap pop, but he did some different like maneuvers on my brother and my dad. And my brother didn't have to go get shots anymore, or get nasal sprays,
Oh,
back
wow.
in the day to do that. And I was like, you pay attention because even you're young, you're like, he's breathing through his nose now. My dad didn't have to have back surgery, and that always stuck with me. Um, so when I went into school, when I got into it, I don't know why necessarily I went into it, but it always stuck in the back of my head to think about healthcare. And I love neurology. I always was a science nerd, so I love the idea of like nerves and the brain. And then my dad's friend was a doctor and said, "Hey, he should think about going into doing some kind of alternative medicine because that's where it's going to be going." Um, so fast forward, I'd said, you know what, I'm going to go into chiropractic has a lot of different, I guess, leniency in certain states because you can practice a lot of
Sure.
different things with it, like homeopathy and such. So I chose that route. And then right when I got to school, I got into Chinese medicine very heavily. And I loved, and this is the story about it. I had a car wreck right before I went to school, right before I went to graduate school. I got rear-ended really badly. My neck kept going out, like literally it would pop out of place after I got it worked on.
Uh,
And I finally when I went to school, I still was having headaches, some migraines. And there's a guy that I knew, and he said, "Hey, let's do some work on your neck." He was a student, he's about to graduate grad school. And he said, he's doing some checking on me. And he says, "It's not really necessarily your neck that's out of alignment." He said, it's your gallbladder. And Pete, I was like, my gallbladder. And he goes, "Yeah, the gallbladder is off." So if you look at a Chinese medicine chart in the acupuncture meridian, there's a gallbladder meridian that goes down both sides of the neck. Well, my grandfather had his gallbladder out, and my dad has some gallbladder issues, and I really didn't know about it. I was just starting to get into health.
Yeah.
He worked on the lymphatic system around my gallbladder, and then about 2 days later, I almost went to like a full body, like almost rigor mortis because it was draining so much toxin out of my body. And then, guys, I never sleep a lot, Pete. I sleep probably, like I was pride myself, like I only sleep 5 hours. I slept about 14 hours, and I don't do that. And I got up after the second day, did this sleeping for another day, and that third day, like when they say the third day, got up. I didn't have any more neck pain, and my neck didn't go out of alignment again, and it stayed like that for 2 months, like it was just super stable. And I was like, gallbladder. And then I just started to investigate Chinese medicine, and then I told my mom saw me doing these kind of things, and she's a little Korean lady, and she saw that I loved herbs, and she says, oh, your uncles, your distant uncles used to do that in the mountains of Korea. And I was like, what do
Uh,
you mean my uncles did that? Because I never met them.
yeah.
And she goes, I said, well, why haven't I met them? She goes, oh, nobody goes talk to them. They're crazy people. And like, you think they're up in the mountains and I don't know all my relatives up there. So I guess it was in my blood. That's how I got into it. But I will say this. The reason I think it's so interesting is that if somebody comes to the office and they would say something to me like, "Oh, doc, my shoulder is chronically out and it chronically is sore. There's some bone spurs and such, and they can't really like get it fixed." What I thought was so interesting was that in Chinese medicine world, you would find that there are certain electrical pathways that go through the shoulder, and it's related to certain organs. So, like for example, you would
Yep.
find lung issues on that person, and if you clear up their bronchitis, their shoulder gets better, and that's what makes it so interesting to me. It's just that it could be structure, but there's so much story behind it. That's why I got in Chinese medicine. I like, if people call it like woo woo, we're kind of, like the esoteric. I think there can be parts of that in Chinese medicine, but there is a lot of really cool correlation between East and West, and that's what we say in ancient health. It's like where do East meets West. I love the connection pieces like sound bowls, sound therapy, like
Yep.
when your wife has, and frequency and tuning fork therapy. There's a lot of science behind it. I really appreciate it too. That's how I got into it.
My
That's
my
like that's
wife's
my thing. Yeah.
my wife's sample page is woo woo with Wendy.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yes.
So she's
With Wendy.
she's all about the woo woo.
Oh, I tell you, the more I look into it, and the more in healthcare, um, you'll see things that are in the field of science. And sometimes when I study those, do you ever see you look at some of the things that are science and you go, "That's more woo-woo than Chinese medicine. What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah.
so that's how I view it.
I was always not big on it. And then
Yeah.
I went to Sedona with my wife, and
Hmm.
if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't believe it. Like I don't expect anybody I tell the story to believe it.
Hmm.
But we went out with the guide, and he was showing us different parts of Sedona and this and that, and he took us to this hill, and he said there's a lot of magnetic fields on this hill right here. He took the little copper wires, and he said just don't squeeze them, just let them rest in your hands. And it was a wire that came out, and he goes walk slowly towards the top of the hill. And as we walked towards the hill, the wires came together, and I'm like I didn't. I watched my wife do it. I'm like, she's got to be doing something.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Go ahead." So I did it. I rested them on there, and I saw these copper wires move, and I'm like, "So there is. I mean, there
No,
is."
that's dowsing. I'm so like when you talk about going up to Sedona, I had my dad's friend had these little dowsing rods. They were little
That's what
copper
it was.
ones,
Yeah.
and he had a friend that would help find wells in the ground. He would find water wells, and he got hired, and he was like they call them the country boys out here in Tennessee, and he would go find them. And he said he took some of them, and where my dad was, beside him, and he took those dowsing rods and put them over my dad's body. And they were doing this, and they would hone in on some place on my dad's body, and they would touch that spot. And my dad would go, "Ow, ow, ow! What is that?" And he goes, "I guess it's finding the hot spots in your body."
Yeah.
And that's one reason I got into frequency medicine. There's techniques that can be very I don't say controversial, but it's like radionics, where they can take instruments that can measure certain radio frequencies that come off the tissues of the body. And when you use dowsing rods, I believe that's what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
interfering with the field of the hill. I'm serious. There got to be some kind of output
100%.
from the hill, and that those dowsing rods centered in on that field. That's what I think.
100%. Like I said, if I saw that on TV, I'd be like, you know what I mean? But
Until you experienced it, right? Like
please,
you were like,
I'm like, it actually happened. So, and they
it
have some other weird things that happen in Sedona, like the trees and that area would get twisted on their own.
really like
So
the
they would
trees would
grow
twist on its own.
growing up twisted, and then like you'd see them further down the hill, and they'd just be growing straight up.
I
So just weird things.
Well, this is one thing that I would say. Like this is with the twisting. Um, I think that those vortexes around the Sedona and the changes of like how like the fields are different in certain areas. Really, if you think about our bodies, if you read the books like The Body Electric, it's a great book. It's a very long read, But what they say is when you're in the womb and you're developing that, like your hand, the reason that cells create your fingers is because there is already a pattern that's basically set, like a biofield pattern, and it's in the shape of your hand. And your cells are basically filling in the puzzle pieces to
Yeah.
make your hand, to make the shape of your hand. Same with a tree. There's like, but the thing is, the shape of the tree could be changed by the field that's being emitted by the ground. Like it could probably twist the field, and that's why the tree would grow in a twisting manner. And that's what happens with joints that are formed certain ways, is because there's a pattern that's basically already in place. And it's not us saying it. It's not woo-woo. Like it really is saying that's
Yeah.
how genetics, that's how cells grow. They basically flip end over end to make your hand. So well, I think we've only touched the surface. I think there's some people out there that are so smart. I read these books, and these scientists are back in like late 1800s and early 1900s, and they're just like brilliant. And they're talking about electrical charges coming off the body. And I'm like, man, I don't know much, but
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best to try to learn.
Is that the part of the exciting part of what you do? Because you almost can never know everything.
It truly is. The only
Everybody's
thing,
different.
oh, yeah, that's a great question. You can't know everything. And I think that even I've been over 20 something years doing this, and you never think ever that I've gotten to a point where I've learned everything at all. And in fact,
Yeah.
it's almost like even now I still learn new things every single day. I think the most amazing part about Eastern medicine and Chinese medicine for me personally is how it's created some validity in my own learning of why emotional stress, psychological stress of your own and of those people around you that are in your field, that are in your vicinity, can actually create physical problems. And I think that's what keeps me going in it. I get so surprised every day. I am not kidding, with patients literally they come in and they give me some problems, and you start learning something new and
Yeah.
finding a pattern, and you go, man, I didn't expect that. Um, I call them my odd ducks, and I say that lovingly to my patients. There's some odd duck patients out there, and
Yeah.
they just know they're going to surprise me. I was like, I have no idea. I'm just going to jump in. That's how I treat them.
It's kind of a delicate question. I'm trying to figure out the right way to ask it. Why is it that what you teach and what you practice and what you work on
Mhm.
isn't necessarily the norm? And so, like, I mean, you live in Franklin, Tennessee. Anyone can look that up, right?
Yep.
It's
And
a it's a
Frank.
well-to-do neighborhood.
Mhm.
So I've always wondered, like, how come there aren't as many practitioners in the not as well neighborhoods? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I mean,
No, that's
it's a
good.
shame because a lot of people could cure a lot of their own problems, but then they're just told to go to your doctor, take these pills, go home, and don't change your diet. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's a good question too. When I first got into like with Franklin, because if you guys have ever been here, and now you've been here before, my one of my good buddies in high school, his mom, when I first moved back here, none of my family members came back to Nashville area, and she said you just need to go to Franklin. And I think I've been here once. I used to live north of Nashville, and I came here, and she says no, you'd make a good living there. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to go to Franklin. And you're right about in the Chinese medicine world, like what areas do you go to? And I guess you get drawn to in certain area, like energetically. I came here because of just advice of my friend's mom. I'm thankful I came. The first thing though, Pete, I did say this. I do say this. My dad, he knows some things about Chinese medicine. He's an old drill sergeant, and he just looked at me. He goes, "Chris, what do you think? Is anybody going to come to you because you do something different? Like, are
Yeah,
you going to be able to make a living?" And just be straight up. I mean, I laugh at it. I was like, "Well, Dad, I mean,
so
I'll
far so
I'll
good.
definitely try. I'll see what happens." And I will say I was very excited when I first started, guys. I would be maybe two people a week, maybe three.
Yeah,
And because I did something different, I was telling people that, oh no, it's not like your shoulder being out of alignment. It's your allergy to corn that could possibly be the problem. And that's what causes it. Will people that have a more affluent area like even listen to it? Because, they're used to like going to their, bigger medical doctors and things of that sort. So I was respectful of that. And it caught on. And there's only a few other doctors in our area that did this. And I guess in this area, you may not see it like in, I guess you say the lower income areas, because I used to work a lot on in St. Louis, on East St. Louis. They would let us do clinics down there,
Yeah.
and we had a lot of people, and I was so grateful that were very appreciative about Chinese medicine. They loved it. Um, but again, and I don't want to say this to like, talk on like the medical system, but you start to see that a lot of times it's already charged in areas in that way that could be like you have to go to the doctor, you have to take what insurance gives you. This is the norm. This is how medical medicine's already taken. And, and sometimes when you look into that way of how we've been, I don't say programmed, um, I think that in certain areas, I guess maybe in Franklin, I guess that's why I got here. There were some individuals that just sort of wanted to break the norm and say, hey, I don't have to go into that realm. I don't have to go to where like my piece, like I have to get told where to go. But I hope that I'm not butchering this the answer,
That's
but I
good.
would think that I was really aware of that, not at the very beginning. When I started to work, people were starting to come to me and I started to feel like, hey, people are starting to catch on to like what I believe. And with what my dad told me, I was like, I hope I can make a living. I really hope I can make a living. I just think that people were in this area starting to break out of the norm. And now I will say, after I moved here, I'm not saying I started it, but I can't tell you how many alternative medicine practitioners are here. It's amazing. Like they all moved in this area. And I mean, Pete, there's a lot of them now.
Yeah.
And I'm like the old dog. And I really am. I'm like the old dog. And so I find myself like being the guys like gonna have to ride off into the sunset. I hope I answered the question. I just think that overall, that unfortunately, like I don't think it's really an option as much as it should be for individuals who don't have as much income or of like a lower income to be like suggested to go do like Chinese medicine or do a preventative medicine
Right.
practice or therapy. I wish it changed and I hope it changes. That's the
Yeah, I mean,
goal. But
the story of Dana White, UFC president.
yeah,
Have
yeah,
you heard about? So he started working with Gary Brecka,
yeah.
and they changed everything about him, and he got off all of his meds, got rid of his CPAP machine, was able to sleep through the night. Dana said in the podcast was, "I'll never go to a regular medical doctor again."
Wow.
He
Wow.
goes, if I break something or something, if something like that happens, I'd go to the emergency room, they'd fix my leg and all that. He said, but every doctor, his take was, I have a lot of money and I spent a lot of money with a lot of good doctors that were world famous doctors and no one could figure out what was wrong with me. This guy comes in and spends 3 hours and tells me everything that's wrong with me, nails it without me having to tell him. And then he just got ripped. I mean, he's just like shredded and he's
Fizzled.
sleeping through the night. But
It, that I mean, Brecca does that. I hope I didn't interrupt. I mean, it's amazing because when you look at one thing with Gary Brecka is like when they're talking about genetics, I started to get into genetics about 6 or 7 years ago, and he's right. We can take a genetics test, and people out there listening who've done a genetics test, you can get that information like from Gary Brecka's information. There's really good genetics tests. I use one called My Happy Genes, and Dr. Jay Dunn, she's one of the smartest ladies, like brilliant doctors. And she could take your gene test, Pete, seriously, and go through it and know which genes are a quote variants or defective. I don't like to use the word defective, but
yeah,
and I could too, now you can go and I could tell you the personality of yourself or your child just by looking at their gene test. I can tell you which foods they can eat, what kind of digestive symptoms. You can tell them if they sleep well. You could tell them if they actually have problems with constipation. This is no joke.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
take a gene test. And what used to bother me, and I get on a little bit of soapbox here, is that we've had this technology to take a gene test and know what each gene can do. And if there is too much environmental toxins warping that gene, you're going to have a symptom from it. But we know in the pharmaceutical industries, they know how to use pharmacies to shut down those receptors and shut down your body's ability to actually feel something. So you're masking a problem. But they use genetic information to do so. So again, I don't want to get too much into that trouble area, but I would say that's what I love about Gary Brecka helping Dana White is that In alternative medicine, when you look at a gene test, this is awesome, cool. I don't want to get too story time on you, but there are times when patients come in and they talk about MTHFR. It's a very big thing, MTHFR or COMT, and they have a problem with just basically their liver metabolizing metabolites, cleaning their blood. And a lot of times patients would come to me with the alternative medicine world and they would say, hey, really, we've been to a lot of docs. You're probably our last person before we don't know what to do. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing, with Gary Brecka saying, is like when you read the gene test, I'm not saying I'm the answer for everything. All I am saying is when I read the test, I go, well, you got a problem, this, and this, and there's no way that this is going to be fixed without you healing your genes, basically,
Right.
restructuring your genes to heal. And they'll say, okay. But what comes to me as alarming is that what would shut down some of the genes from working properly? A lot of times it's infections. And it's infections that are hiding in the body. And I think I got really good at finding infections because I always got to some closed doors on a person's testing when I was doing something. I was like, why aren't they getting better? And I really got into infections. And the reason is because I had to. And I think that in our culture, like when Dana White said, I'm never going to go know a doctor again, it's crazy that even in Tennessee, there are some doctors that still say that there is no such thing as Lyme in Tennessee. I was like, I have documented hundreds of documented cases that have come in and people with blood work and urinalysis that say they have Lyme in the state.
Yeah.
But then they say that it doesn't exist. And then you look at it and go, no, this infection is warping your genes, your gene expression. And the beautiful thing that I'm really happy about is that cleaning up some of the infections, using other practitioners, don't just try to be your own self, like maybe good medical practitioner, alternative, and you start seeing these people heal up. And 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 I want people out there to have hope. I literally have had some patients that were like their kids had such bad eczema because they had such bad eczema that the doctors would say, you know what, you're going to have to keep lotions and creams in your closet for the rest of your life. He's never going to get out of it. And what does that do to mom?
Yeah.
Like she goes home and just starts crying, like literally comes to you crying. And the good thing is that whenever you look at their digestive tract, you do some poop testing, you start looking at some of you dig into their ears and do a little culture, and you're like, oh, they got a lot of strep. And we start cleaning it up, their skin starts to clear up. Now, why
Yeah.
can't we just do that for everybody?
That's what I'm
And
saying.
why can't we? I just don't get it. Like,
We can. I'll
oh,
give you my non-medical version of it. Just
yep,
stupid outside sales rep driving around the road. All about the money.
yeah,
It's all about the money. I mean, I did a lot of research looking into doctors and how much time they actually spend in preventative medicine versus
yeah. Hmm.
treating a symptom versus preventing the symptom from starting. And they don't get training in college and medical school. So when
Hmm.
they get into a practice, they're told, well, he's got a headache, or he's got this or that. Let's get him on this. I go to the doctor. I'm over 50. I have to go once a year, right?
Hmm.
And every time I've been there, they go, "What pills are you on?" And I go, "None." I mean, I take a leave once in a while if I get sore. They're like, "Well, no, but I mean, even over the counter stuff, what do you take?" And I go, "Tylenol once in a while." I don't know. I mean, and they're like, "Well,
Yeah.
you should be on something." I mean, your blood pressure isn't high, but it could get high, so we could put you on some statin or something, something like that. And I'm like, I'm good. You know what I mean? They're just shocked that somebody over 50 isn't taking pills because that's their kind of their MO.
I think that when you
That's my
say,
take.
no, I did an interview with Mark Young. He does a device called a Zona Health, and he's 50. I can't say I know exactly what his age is, but he's mid to late 50s. And they were like, "You're not on any blood pressure, but your blood pressure is low." And he goes, "So what's the problem?" And they like kept asking him questions. He goes, "No, I don't know why you keep asking me the same question. I can't give you any different answers because he's like, I'm just doing my best to take care of myself." And to me, you're hitting the nail on the head. If I see a patient that had like higher blood pressure and my family has genetic variants, that would give us higher blood pressure. That means that when we encounter stress over years, it could lead us to have higher blood pressure. But in the Chinese medicine world, and I'm not saying everybody thinks this way, but the first thing I would think though, Pete, is if you had it, you always look at the liver and the kidneys in Chinese medicine. That's two of the things you always learn in basic 101 Chinese medicine. Liver and kidneys. Congestion, a lot of thick blood, a
Yeah.
lot of problems in the kidneys causing the problems. So just start cleaning the liver and kidneys out. So I've always wondered though, in Western medicine hospital, if they had high blood pressure, like why can't we just send them to get go get their liver checked and get their kidneys? Because when they get a blood test, they're like, oh, your albumin globulin rates are a little bit off.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's like showing you got some kidney infections and diseases that we need to clean out. And I when you said it's all about the money, I used to wonder whenever you go to literally a hospital floor, I'm thinking, I wonder how many of these individuals could benefit so well if there was like an alternative medicine practitioner that was in there doing some of
They would
their
never allow
mojo and helping out, and
it.
how much money would they save?
Or
So
lose.
I'm with you 100% on that. Yeah.
Because the pharmaceutical companies that pay for a lot of their structures, i.e. the buildings and everything else, would be like, hey, we don't want that guy in our building slash hospital. We
Yeah,
want
not
a
at all.
pharmacy down there instead of an Eastern practitioner. That's my opinion.
No, it's complete.
I'm,
I
I'm
love. I get excited when I talk because I'm not trying to get too hyper. But I had a friend who is an amazing Chinese medicine practitioner. He's since retired. He worked at one of the leading pain clinics in St. Louis, and he was doing really well. He was doing like my mentor taught him about different things to do in Chinese medicine, acupuncture and such. And one day the clinician called him back and said, "Hey, I don't think you can work here anymore." And he's like, why? Like, all my patients you sent me to help with pain therapy is getting better. And she goes, well, that's the case. Insurance, we have to keep a certain amount of people in here and insurance to keep paying. And so they literally let him go. And that was the first time, like I personally, like that was when I was young in the career. I was like, it kind of dumbfounded me. So then you have to like raise your awareness for like that certain types of avenues in healthcare are really about like the bottom line is like how much can we keep, like you say, the doors open, and how much money can we make? And it's a sad world. I think I'm getting more adamant now because I see so many things come in like you've talked about, Pete. Like
yeah.
there are people out there or organizations that say we just got to keep pharmacy systems going. And it is saddening to me at times. And I say pharmacy and surgery when it's needed. Like you said, dynamite, like if you break a bone and such and
Yeah.
you need like medication, I get those things. But overall, preventative medicine hopefully will have a bigger say. And I hope we do that in the country.
It'd be a tough one though.
Yeah.
You've got decades of. I mean, I just recently, I think like a week ago, maybe this week, when they were asked, RFK Jr. didn't want the EBT money to be used on soda pop.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
He
he
didn't.
wanted to
What did
eliminate
they
it.
say?
People are freaking. How dare you tell people what to eat and not eat? And how dare you tell people how to be healthy? And like, what? It's not their money. We're gifting them money. We want them to get all the apples you want, get all the strawberries. He just wants to limit them being able to buy soda pop with their EBT card. And they're freaking.
And I'm talking like for all the people that are freaking out, I just wish there was more education out there that they would realize like what soda pop is and what it really does to your internal organs. But it just shows how, right, Pete, like how much we've been programmed to think like,
Yeah.
no, I got to keep this addiction going. And even though this thing is literally poison to my body, like we got to keep this whole train going. And I find it, there are patients that come in, Pete, love them to death, will never fault them for it. I will say that whenever they come in, I can usually tell when they cheat on the diet I put them on.
Yeah.
I definitely can. So whenever I do their pulse points, I do some Chinese medicine practice, but some of them like love Coke or love a cola.
Yeah.
And they'll say to the point where, well, I gave up, I gave up whiskey or I gave up, wine But I'm like, but you're drinking something that basically has pure acid and petroleum and oil and so much mercury in it. I'd honestly rather you possibly drink more wine,
Yeah.
than that. And but the addiction's high. I just wonder how the programming is so prevalent in our culture that want to go back to it. Like for instance, I understand people love gluten and they love like good bread and good pizza. Don't get me wrong, or good ice cream. I have some funny stories, but there are times when they'll get really cleaned up, super cleaned up, and they're like doing really well with it, and then they go, "Hey, so doc, when do you think I could go back and eat a little bit of that?" And I'm like, heavens. I mean, you got off that train and now you want to go back, but it just shows you how much the industry has, even TV and radio, how it's influenced us. That's how I believe.
So as I don't like calling myself a sugar addict, but someone that enjoyed sweets, you start looking like, okay, I go into Office Depot. I want to get a ream of paper for my printer. What do I see at the checkout? Candy
Ink bars.
aisle, soda pop, right? I go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware. What do I see at the checkout? Soda pop, Monster Energy drinks, candy, you know, so I go into Best Buy. I just want to buy a little adapter for my computer. What do I see at the checkout? What do you stand next to? Soda pop, candy, chips. I go to the gas station to get gas. I got to go in because the pump's not working outside, so I got to use my credit card inside. What am I completely surrounded by candy, chips, soda, it's donuts. It's and then it's everywhere.
It is everywhere. And there are some, have you read those books, Pete? One of the docs I know is Dr. Dan Murphy talked about, it's about sugar wars. I don't know if it's called sugar wars, but I know there's one called Sugar Blues. It talks about the effect of the addiction to sugar. But they talk about how countries literally fought huge wars for sugar because they know the addictive quality of sugars and how much it controls the brain. And like you said, you go to Best Buy and you can't escape it. I mean, there's
Yeah,
a
it's everywhere.
Snickers bar like right there, and you're like, man, you got to get a Snickers bar. And to me, that is the hardest thing, with all seriousness, is to break somebody like from the sugar addiction. Because I got in a conversation with someone, I have a little membership, and so we get in these discussions about, parasites, Lyme disease, fungus, mold, yeast, things that are in the body that can cause some disruption. But probably the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things that's very hard, is like you're talking about your sugars, is cleaning up yeast and fungus. The reason being because yeast is a natural part of our joints, our body, and it basically helps with old, dead, decaying tissue. It eats it up. It eats up old toxins, and so your body actually uses yeast in some positive ways. But one of the things I find is that there's such an overgrowth of yeast in our culture because, you go to the store and it's right there and the yeast is feeding off of it. And so you have individuals that gain like 15 to 20 extra pounds. I can't get this extra 15, 20 pounds off. My heart goes out to them. I'm not making light of this. It's just what you'll find is that yeast and that fungus has become so fed that your body actually, and this is my opinion, but I've seen it, that people have made a home for the yeast and your body has gotten so used to that normal amount
Yep.
that it's almost accepted that the yeast is part of you. And so your neurology or your nervous system is not necessarily going to see it as an enemy. So it's not going to go attack it. It's like, oh, it's hanging out. And so we're just going to keep feeding it because I have to live symbiotically with it. And that's what's happening in our culture. And one of the hardest things to do for a patient is to break them up, not only sugar, but get them a yeast detox. And you'll have people that are like, you've seen it, Pete, like people say, man, my body's smelling, I'm sweating just from a yeast detox. And then they get done and then they go, man, I don't really crave sugar anymore. I'm like, well, probably because you took the offending agent out of the way. And so if everybody out there is listening, like, what would you do first, doc? What would you do first? Like, I would do a gentle, or look into gentle yeast detoxing, just to help you with your sugar addiction. Um, because it's everywhere. Yeast is everywhere.
I gotta say, I'm not even joking. I need something to write that down.
I mean, write it down. And okay,
Gentle
Pete, I don't want
yeast
to overtalk. So
protection.
your listeners, I don't want you guys to think I'm over talking. I get excited about it, but when you think about there's like just now there's like known like 13 different types of candida. And people are like, oh, is
Yeah.
that a real thing? Is candida? I'm like, I would tell them if you realized how many billions of cells are in your body and how much of it's bacteria and mold and fungus and yeast, and many of them are beneficial, they're not bad. A lot of them
Yeah.
are beneficial. But if you start to see how much you have to work with them because your body is such a really cool balancing system. Your body has to work all day internally in your gut system to try to create the proper amount of dopamine and serotonin and all those chemicals that make you feel balanced. So your body's trying. It's like, I got to try to do this. But
Yes.
then you have all this yeast and stuff in there. So you have to keep the yeast happy. You got to keep your brain happy. You got to make a happy chemical balance. And man, that is tough on the body. That is like you have to expend so much energy. And that's why people get up somewhere like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't feel happy. I'm depressed. I feel sad. And when they talk about this whole thing about gut health, it's the truth. I mean, we were just talking about like people having certain set types of diet. Yeast, I'm not saying yeast is evil. I'm saying balancing yeast is probably your best bet when you talk about sugar. So um, there's a really great NFL, I think it's Hall of Fame, but Merrill Hodge, and he's a former player, and he is adamant about health, and he's adamant about sugar. Like you got to watch some of his videos. He's like,
I
"Hey,
interviewed him.
yeah," he's like, "Don't do sugars,
Yeah.
and don't do that." And I'm like,
100%.
can't say no to that, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to
But
ask you, as a business traveler, and I touch on this in our little pre-call, but it's very difficult as a business traveler. Your airports, gas stations, fast food is what's available.
mhm.
You know, how do you what do you recommend to your patients, like if they're going to be traveling that much?
One of the things I do tell or ask them to do, because I know what people out there are going to listen to, they're like, what about the quality of the meat? What about the quality of the food? I understand that. Is there going to be any types of rancid oils or seed oils? Are there going to be any types of sugars or any type of GMOs within the products? I take that all into account. That's what you and I are both talking about. So I know we're just going to accept and notice that. But if you're out there and you can't get away from it, I know that there's going to be candies, there's going to be nuts, there's going to be different things out there. If you can, this is what I tell them. I try to find like a restaurant or something that gives you just basically plain protein. I always tell them find a place that has maybe a decent burger and do like a burger with just without the bread. I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds really cliche. So I always tell them just try to keep it with meat, some form of vegetable. I don't think there's going to be fruits at the airport, but try to just do something where if you had to get a burger without the bun, that's what I do. Or find some place that just gives you a meat with some form of
Chicken
vegetable.
or something. Yeah.
Chicken, and if you just eat the protein by itself, that's what I would do. When you're out, I mean, I'm pretty adamant. I don't think you should go out and drink colas. I don't agree. I
Yeah.
don't think you should drink any type of cola. I just say you stay hydrated. And this is what I say. Of course, you take water, and some people say, I hate drinking water. And I say, well, take it. And they don't want to take an electrolyte packet. But even if you did something that had water with some type of salt you could put in there, or that's what I say, take packets of electrolytes. This is my recommendation. You take electrolyte packets, take a water, you put that in there, stay hydrated, and it will keep you from feeling so super hungry. So where you're starting to overindulge, because that's what's happening. When you want to eat a lot of food, sometimes you don't have enough electrolytes in your system. So put some electrolytes in some water, get you maybe some hydrogen water as well, take it with you. Or I know you can't take water on the plane, but take the electrolytes with you. Do that. I always say take a good enzyme, a food enzyme that works for you. Find a place where you do the proteins, do the chicken or the beef, take the enzyme, do the electrolyte water. And some people will say, well, just do a whole bunch of nuts. Now, there's some people who would do, pistachios or almonds. You have to be careful of those too, actually. Some of them have a lot of rancid oils on them, and they will make you feel worse. So
I was just
I
reading up on almonds, like, God damn
It's
it.
exact- it's true. Like I will say that I like almonds, and I please don't think I'm knocking on the pistachios or the almonds. I think it's great. It's just you have to be mindful of the actual brand there too. So if you don't feel great, that's the problem. So those are my simple basic rules. I always take with me as well, like you said, an apple. So I try to put a little room in my bag, and I just put like an old bag because they'll let you take it on there. Take an apple or some fruits with you, at least if you're gonna do some sugars, and take that with you. Or some people, if they can do dairy, they'll take like cheese sticks, or but a lot of people now are doing like those, grass-fed beef sticks or chicken stick, like they have
Okay.
these chicken sticks. And I'm telling you, like when I travel, sometimes that's all I eat. I'll just take like 10 or 15 of those and I'll have like some fruit and I'm like, that's what I'm going to eat. But I know you can't do that all the time. We're talking about like you run out of stuff, but just remember meats and vegetables as much as you can, wherever you're at, enzymes and electrolytes. Um, I I do like this. I've seen people do this now. Is that they'll take like a little shaker bottle, like an itty bitty. They have these little travel
Yeah.
ones, and now they can get like protein packets. I know it's a lot of a hassle, but if you are trying to stay healthier and trying to eat foods at the airport, dump them in there, put a little water in there, shake them up, and douse it. And that's what I always tell myself, Pete. When I have a craving for sugar, this is my rule. When I have a craving, I'm like, you can. I talk to myself. I'm like, Chris, you have to do a protein before you do a sugar. So drink the protein or and then see if you want the sugar. And usually after I get done with my electrolytes, I'm like, I really don't need the sugar. I can actually, you're just talking out of hunger. And that's what the yeast is talking. It's like making you crave it. So that's
It,
my recommendation.
it's they've made it so easy to just, like I said, anytime you check out almost anywhere, oh, there's a soda there. I'll just grab some, like you said, a Snickers or whatever, and they just make it, oh, just add it on.
It's it. It's always that thing. It's like the prompt whenever you get done with the website and go, hey, before you leave, we got
Yeah.
an extra deal for you.
Would you
And
like to? That's the
wait,
shopping experience in the United States. I mean, see what's gonna be like in Japan.
oh, you're gonna love Japan, my man.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so when we went to Japan, I went with one of my mentors, and he's got a pretty strict diet. And we go to the hotel food breakfast bar. And I was really surprised when my mentors tells me, he goes, "Hey, we got to go to the breakfast bar." And I was like, "Well, what are they gonna have at this breakfast bar, this hotel?" And I'm telling you what, it was very clean. They had broiled fish, eggs were made well. You could tell it was quality. They had the
Yeah.
best soups, and it was $15, Pete, 16.
Yeah.
I could not wait till the next day. I was like, I don't have to eat. I told him, I said, I wouldn't eat anywhere else. Like, can we just come back here and have like a big breakfast? And it was delicious. So anywhere you go, it's such good quality. One thing people have probably gasped when they hear me say this, but I literally walked past, they had a Burger King there. But when you go by fast food, sometimes you smell, you're like, that doesn't smell that great, because you get a trained nose, like that doesn't smell like real meat. But when I walked past, it was like we were going to Kyoto, and I smelled something, and I was like, man, that smells delicious. I'm walking past. Okay, I'm looking over because there's a screen here. I got this screen here, so I'm not looking away.
Okay.
And I looked over at the Burger King. I was like, that's a Burger King, and I hadn't Burger King in forever. And
Yeah.
and I walked past, and then okay, so time goes by, and it was like 2 days later, about to head back home. The first thing I thought before I got on the plane, this is no exaggeration. I went, maybe I should have tried that Burger King. Maybe I should have gone see what it was like.
We want to do one of those.
It was
We said we're
you got
gonna,
hey, you got to let me know how it is because
yeah,
it smells so good. Oh, so
because
delicious.
everyone's been telling us, even like the 7-Elevens over there
Mm,
are like convenies. They're convenience stores. They're full delis, food, fresh food,
yes.
like the
I,
exact opposite of the States.
I'm sorry, I'm getting so excited. Like it was like because the time change was so bad. I'd be up at
Yeah.
like 12:30. I couldn't really sleep, so I'd go across the street from this nice hotel, 7-Eleven, go get me some water. They had like fresh, like embroiled fish packaged to where it's like ready to eat, and they were coming in daily and putting it fresh in there. Because I'm half Asian, I'll eat rice and stuff all day. And their version of fast food literally was around the corner. It was like a 24-hour deli. It had miso soup. It had like these grilled fish, and these kids are coming in eating like it's fast food, and I'm like in heaven. I was like,
This is a
it's
deal.
not. It was a meal.
Yeah.
Cost me like $8, and I
Yeah.
loved it. So when you come on my podcast, I want to talk about it when you get back. This is going to be great.
Yeah, because like you said, we started looking up the food and all that because that's one of the things hey, what are we going to eat when we get there? And you're like, oh, it's like I'm starting doing the yen trend, conversion. I'm like, it's like $4. A ramen with pork broth, you know,
Oh,
like
you're gonna
$3.50. And you're like, what? That's $30 in LA.
it. And when you taste the sushi over there, I mean,
Yeah.
people say like parasite stuff, but I'm just saying there's sushi over there. I was like phenomenal. Like it would just, everything was just
They say
really
it's all about the
exact.
rice.
Oh yeah. And you know your stuff. It's exactly the rice. Because my mom, we used to take rice like maybe you do too. Like you wash the rice consistently, get all the starch off, get all the dirt, and you soak it. That's a big thing. Is how long do you let it soak? And if you soak the rice enough, you actually there's a reaction like in the endosperm and the shell that actually helps you digest it better. So my mom always was like taught me like you better have soft rice, soft rice. She always tells us in her little Korean accent. And when I went over there, like my mentor thought it was funny because I ate like 3 bites of the rice. I was like, that's good rice.
Yeah.
Like that's not like some, I hate to say it, like you go to some buffet and it's just like just hard rice. I was like, no, this was real deal.
And that's what they said with sushi, right? I saw something where they said when you get a piece of nigiri, the sushi, you're supposed to just dip the fish in the soy sauce, not the rice, because you'll ruin the rice.
That's exactly right. You got that perfect. You don't like, and it's almost like, well, is that the word faux pas? I don't know. Like sometimes
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
you'll do it and you'll look at somebody and they're like,
Oh, he
"What are
just.
you doing?" And you're like, uh. Yeah. My mom used to always say that. She'd always be like, "Never, never dip," and I'd be like, "All
All
right,
right.
mom,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it."
Yep. So, like I said, it's going to be a great trip. It's going to be observational, and we're trying to figure out ways to stay healthy. A lot of water.
A lot of water. Take your electrolytes. Take your enzymes, and you know, if with anybody with Chinese medicine, say like, what would be like when you travel? Like, what are some of the things that you would say like you should do there? I know that even with herbs and such, that it can be overwhelming when you travel, but there's like everybody's different. But Pete, like I'll take a few things. I'll take like chrysanthemum, reishi mushroom. I'll take a binder like a takasumi that's in Japan. It's like black and charcoal that's from bamboo. You take it at night, it'll soak up a lot of the toxins. But I'll take that and Camu, which is Camu berry. Like Laird Hamilton, he has like a lot of Camu. You take like those, and you get a lot of vitamin C in Camu, and you get the Vital Guard chrysanthemum, build up your chi and kill off viruses and yeast. You do a lot of that mushrooms like reishi or shiitake, and it's like a scavenger. It'll go clean up all those like inflammatory agents. And I'll take a few of those with me and just do a couple every day. And sometimes I'll do olive leaf because it's a really good antiviral when you travel. And there's certain ones if you look into like Supreme Nutrition products, I have to give them a shout. They're like my buds. I love them. They have really good products. But they'll go in, you can go on Supreme Nutrition products. I want people out there listening, go on their website, look at what they do, and just let it go. Oh, this one's good for viruses. It doesn't say it cures it,
Yeah.
but if you travel, don't take an herb that makes you feel horrible. Sometimes most people will take and go, man, that makes me feel amazing. And I take those with me when I travel and take, it's 4 or 5 pills a day plus what if you have vitamins and minerals, you'll pretty much nominally stay pretty healthy. That's my opinion. Yeah.
I agree. It's interesting. People that I travel for work, right? So if I can't travel because I'm sick, I don't make any money.
That's
So
right.
there's no. I think that's also a mindset, right? It's like I can't afford to get sick, so I tend not to get sick. I got COVID. I
Mhm.
worked at the rodeo, and you're around thousands of people a day. I knew at some point I was probably going to get sick.
Yeah.
I think I've been sick, like sick once in the last 8, 9 years, 10 years.
Good on you.
But
Good on you.
I've also done some stupid things where you go, yeah, I'm not feeling great, but I want to eat this month, so I'm going to go out on the road and then you just kind of your brain tells you be smart and you know, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that the one thing I'll say with mindset, and I don't want to go into this rabbit trail where people get bored and snooze off whenever I'm talking, Pete. So I'm sorry if your listeners like get that guy off. But um, that's one of the things I think is important is with mindset. And one of the thing I appreciate about the mind of the organ. So people would say, what does Chinese medicine say about like organs or your thoughts? It's like they always say that each organ has its own mind or its own type of personality. And that
Right.
makes sense because each organ has a job to do. And like you said, I have to eat, I have to work to keep going. So we know in Chinese medicine we always respect the higher mind and the brain. The brain has psychologically has goals, and it's sitting there putting relays out to the organ saying, "This is what I need. This is what needs to happen,
Yep.
and I need this amount of energy output." And the one thing though is that you want to always create harmony where you're basically having your brain and your higher mind just stay in relationship with all your organs and listening to them. When you are like having a proper mindset and you basically, this is what I tell people, remember, listen to your organs. This sounds corny, but you have to start to listen to your body in the sense that people say, well, if you feel tired, do you keep working? Yes, if you feel tired and you keep working, you need to nourish, you have to nourish parts of your body though while you're working. But it's so important to really like get still and be contemplative, even during the work, and really listening to what the organs are saying. Because when you start to get really in tune, for instance, I talk to my heart. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I do. I know when I push my heart too much because I'm super exhausted and my heart's like literally saying, "You pushed me too hard, man." And I go, "Okay,
Fair
you're
enough.
right. Fair. I did. And I'm sorry about it, but we're going to work together." The crazy thing is that that programming that you're running off of is like saying, heart, your job is to just create enough energy for me to keep completing the work. But this is how it is in Chinese medicine. If the heart gets really tired, what happens is it's pulling a lot of qi from your kidneys. And this is how woo-woo it can get to some people, not to me. The kidneys are like battery packs. They're pulling a lot of ions from the earth and they're stored in the kidneys. And you drink a lot of water and you take a lot of minerals, it makes you really electrical. And it makes your blood electrical. And that blood and that qi is sending energy up into the heart. Well, if the heart gets tired, it starts pulling up on the kidneys and the kidneys starts to get the drain and they start getting tired. And physiologically, what happens when your kidneys get tired? Well, they'll say, well, your hips get tight, your low back starts to hurt, and your adrenals get fatigued. And then psychologically, you'll start thinking, man, I'm so tired. I don't even know what the future holds. I feel
Yeah.
stuck. I feel like I can't move forward. I feel like I can't see what's ahead. And you start to see like the relationship, like how the body talks with each other. And I'm like, I tell people, it sounds really hard, but you have to get to a point where you really start to listen to each part of your body. If you know you have a problem within an organ, learn Chinese medicine's emotional relationship of that organ and focus on that emotion. Like I'm telling you, it makes a world of difference. And I hope I didn't take away from this whole
Oh,
conversation on that piece, but it is important because mind has a lot to do with your overall health. It sure does.
I totally agree. That's why I don't mind you talking about it, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man,
So,
this is
with you starting the Ancient Health podcast,
mhm.
seemed like it's a perfect kind of avenue for you to reach out to other practitioners that whether it's red light therapy and some of the other people you've had on your show, but then you also do a couple shows where it's just you talking about X, Y, and Z.
Mhm. Mhm.
How has it been advantageous? I mean,
To do
a
my own.
podcast, to do your own podcast.
Yeah, I think that I do a lot of the solo projects, or they call them the solo runs, because before it was like Dr. Josh X, and I had a friend Courtney. She would do like a lot of the interviews. I did too. But one thing we try to do, and I think we still do it, is the solos were just describing my experiences in the office, but real hands-on experience with patients, and that's all I talk about
Yeah.
is my experiences. And I hope that works because I wanted to make it practical. Sometimes I can get a little bit, on different trails in the podcast, but has it helped? I think I've actually gotten decent response from the solo episodes because it's like taking a problem like, oh, I have acne here. Then I'll say, this is what I've seen in the office. This is what I've seen work. So I love getting the opinions of experts, but I think with the Chinese medicine world, it's like, oh, I have acne on my chin. I would say then you're not just having acne on the chin, you're having basically toxicities and infections in the bladder or the urinary tract system, or even in the reproductive system. Chin represents the pubic area in the body, and so you're going to have infection there. And that's like experience. And so people they'll come in and they'll comment or they'll message me and say, hey, I got the herb you talked about and it actually helped clear up my acne. And I like it because it's real world for me. And
Yep.
I think people appreciate it. Yeah, definitely.
I as the internet gets easier and easier to navigate, yeah, I always joke, like my daughters, they're what they call digital natives. Like they basically grew up with computers and phones their whole life.
Hmm.
Whereas I still remember life before. And so, like, uh, an Eastern practitioner of medicine, they were the woo-woo people. You know, there was no, they weren't on TV.
Yeah.
They weren't, there was no internet, no YouTube. And I think people now are starting, I hope, to get smarter with their own health. And it's so easy to Google, to search, hey, I feel like this. Oh, hey, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
It,
hope, right?
I hope.
So I
I,
think you're in
I
the right place at the right time.
I appreciate it, my friend. I think that it's important for the culture out there to understand that now they're starting to see more and more like people who I thought were the most staunch Western medicine, like, labs and blood,
Yeah.
which I love and I agree with. But I have some medical doctors around town now, and I'm thankful. I feel, flattered at some points. They'll be like, "Hey, whatever, go ask Motley what this is, and then we'll go check it." Granted, but one of the things I will tell everybody is I always tell my patients that one of the best things about my job is I can literally at least do my part to help them not feel fearful. Because you're going to watch things on Google and you're going to read things and you're going to go,
Yeah.
okay, I'm so scared right now. But then, like, I'm going to go to this person that may seem like some woo woo, and you give them like a practical answer. And over the years now, it's like more and more people come to me, literally, Pete, they come to me because they said, well, you told my friend about this. And I said, I don't act like I can solve it. I could probably put you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's what Chinese medicine has done for me. I've helped a lot of people like help their health and heal them up, not patting myself on the back. I'm saying, but for instance, I just like literally people come in and they'll say, "Hey, I've literally got super bad sinus issues here. I have migraines. I've got top of the shoulder pain, and my calves hurt all the time. Like I'm literally cramping." So the doctor will say, "Well, take a lot of magnesium." But
Yeah.
in Chinese medicine, that's complete bladder infection. Like you wouldn't even think about it. So you have a bladder infection. Go get a UTI scan, and they go, "Oh yeah, I do have a UTI." And it keeps them from getting scared. Like I have chronic migraines. I'm never going to get away from them. I'm like, no, you can clean them up. All that to say, I hope it gets more mainstream.
I do
That's
too.
my prayer. That really is.
Keep your podcast going. I'll keep mine going.
Dude, you got to tell me how Japan is, man. I really love this conversation. It's such an easy conversation, and I hope your listeners enjoy our convo. I mean, like me
I
talking about
know.
some
I've
fun
had to
stuff.
talk with some of my fellow workers that are road travelers, right?
Uh-huh.
And that I work within the industry of Western clothing. And at first they're like, most of them are, whatever, you know.
Yeah,
And then I had a guy. We were talking about eating cleaner and what it meant, and he said, "Oh, my grandfather did this." I go, "Yeah, but the bread that used to mold, and now it doesn't mold for like
it
two,
doesn't
3 days.
mold.
So the meats and the a lot of the stuff that you used to eat would go bad. And so they've come up with all these preservatives to inject in the food and their diet, for the animals to make them last longer. So you don't have, you can buy steak and last for a week. And it's like it never did that. Bread was the same way. I make my own bread now.
Yeah,
It goes bad.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Pete, I got to send you a picture. I should for the podcast, but we have at our office, we've got a Happy Meal from 2016 and it has not decayed. We put it
Yeah.
in this glass thing and it hasn't, and you go, no wonder you have bad gas after you eat a Happy Meal. Come on.
It's not real food.
Not real food. It's not real. Like
Yeah.
you give your gut flora something that's not even real food. It's like what enzymes do I produce to actually tear this apart? So
You ever eat a drumstick growing up?
yeah, the ice cream or drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Go look on the box. It doesn't say ice cream.
What does it say? I don't even know what it says.
There's a frozen sundry or whatever because there's not enough dairy. It's not real ice cream. It's a chemical squeeze. Go look it up. I was like, are you effing kidding me?
Dude, I have got to see this. I used to eat those all the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now, maybe back in the day, they were made with real ice cream, but they figured out a way to make some kind of glob that they fill it in and it's cheaper. And it doesn't have enough, I guess, dairy product to be considered an
Yeah, they.
ice cream. So it's a frozen sundry or frozen dessert.
I'm gonna look it up, man. I'm gonna look it up after we get done.
It's crazy though. That's the stuff
Oh,
that I try to share with people too. Like,
oh man, I'm telling you, I'll do this, and I tell people like whenever you come on the Ancient Health podcast, I try to be very gentle about information, but sometimes when I hear about certain things like that, I just start to like let myself spiel and just go, okay, this is crazy. Like we should not have this, but oh man, I'm telling you, Pete, I am just happy we got to come on here. This was
ah
great.
man, I told I mean, you're 300. You've done more episodes than me, but I don't do any solos. Mine are all interviews.
Sure. Solos are good. I like because it helps me like with my thoughts, just get them out, especially because I'm working on people all day. Like I got patients today and I'm like, I'll go work on them and I got to get done. And it's like you go get done and you go, what did I learn? And people say, oh, you just taking that? And I say, yes, I'm putting it on the podcast. I have to know what I've experienced in dealing with like an allergy or dealing with such and such. And the more I talk about it, I've learned on the podcast, the more I talk, sharing what I know, but it also makes me investigate more and it makes me
Yeah.
learn more. And it's actually been really helpful for me to grow really well.
I
So
might do some solos. I'll have to figure out. I'll think about that while I'm in Japan.
do it. I'm telling you, you'll be not be disappointed when you have a conversation with yourself. And it sounds crazy, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll start picking your own brain and you go, oh, that's what I really think about that. And it's pretty eye-opening when you do it.
Sweet. Yeah, it would be strange after 320, whatever.
It'll be different, but you watch and let me know how it goes.
I will. I will. All right, brother. What's the best way for people to reach out to Dr. Chris Motley?
Just reach out at Dr. Motley, all spelled out. Dr. Motley on Instagram, Facebook. My website's drmotley.com. Just hit us up, and I try to put out all the free information I can out there. I do have a membership. I'm going to even make even more simple. I always say it's a membership for the person that wants to go out there and not spend tons of money on like certain medical things. I try to keep you some real practical tips. We have a Q&A every single week where you can jump on with me. I have a few people there. We just talk. And that's where you can find me. And man, I'm just so thankful today, brother.
Yeah. I want to make sure for my listeners, not my viewers, it's
MOT.
DoctorMotley.
Yep. Dr. Motley spelled out.
Yep.
drmotley.com.
So,
Yeah.
man, I appreciate it. Uh,
Thank you, brother, man.
New friendship begins. I appreciate the time,
I
bro.
know it is. Thanks, everybody.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.